Hello, everyone. My name is Michael. I'm from the Modio marketing team, and on behalf of Modio, I wanted to personally thank each of you for attending our webinar, Building Trust Through Data Literacy. We have two very special guest speakers today who will be taking us through the journey of data literacy and showing us how we can learn to trust our data. First, we have Kabir Rab. He's a solutions architect at Tahola, a Qlik Luminary, and the co-founder of Kids and Data. We also have Modio's very own Edwin Van Megason, our VP of Sales Development. Now I'm going to go ahead and pass the floor over to Kabir.
Thank you very much for having me here. Now, today I want to talk about trust. Trust is fundamental to our life, to our social and economical development. What I wanted to do today is to focus around building that trust on our data and analytics that we use in our businesses. So now, before I start, I just wanted to set a quick agenda for today's session. And I would like to start the session by looking at the importance of having trust in our data and analytics. And then I want to focus on how data literacy can help us build that trust bridge, and slowly move on to looking at how Kids in Data, which is a data literacy platform for children, is using data literacy to start the journey. And finally, I would like us to take away some key things from this session to start looking at building trust within our organization, in our data and the analytics that we have in use. So before we start talking about building trust in our data, let's take a quick look at how data is helping us and the importance of data in our organization. Now, we already know that data helps us to unlock untold values for the business, and it also gives the business a competitive edge. And the analytics that we build on top of that data helps us to deliver better and faster decision, and also drives investment across different sectors of the business. Data also helps us to understand our customers better. It helps us to understand who our customers are, what products and services do they buy and use. And it helps us to develop new products and services based on their usage and based on their preferences. It helps us to streamline our existing operations. So that could be delivering efficiency in our existing processes or allowing us to monitor key performance metrics around the business. Data also helps us to manage risk and also allows us to be compliant with regulation by providing the correct information at the right time. And all of these, in terms of, in particular, the decision-making side of it, it's not just limited to the business settings, it's also very important in our individual lives and as well as a society as a whole. And all of these are achievable when we utilize the data correctly. And having trust in our data and driving the data-driven culture is the key to success in those scenarios. So why trust is important? Now let's have a look at what happens when we do not actually have trust in our data. If we don't have trust in our data, it can lead to bad investment. And this is where people start making decisions based on their gut feelings rather than using their data. And that can lead to inaccurate forecasting. And business also becomes slow to respond when changes occurs quite rapidly. And in result, they lose their competitive edge that they might have had in the market space. And all of these can lead to very slow data adoption and even in cases decline in the data adoption and engagement. And the reason behind it, if people don't trust their data, they will not necessarily going to trust the analytics that's been built on top of that data, and they're not likely to use that analytics to make their decision. So it's essential that we build that trust. So Experian did a global research recently, and what they found is that 6 out of 10 believes the quality of the data increases the efficiency in their business. With sizable percentage believes that it's not only just the increased customer trust, that also increases their customer satisfaction rating. It also enables them to be a bit more informed in terms of making their decisions, and also allows them to cut costs and make savings throughout. One thing to highlight in here that we need to be mindful and be careful, and we also need to be able to avoid all this pitfall that I mentioned when we don't have trust in our data. And in order to do this, we need to be able to provide the business with the quality data management and also build the trust and build the engagement with our employee base. So what are the key to building trust? The first part of it is that we have to raise data awareness throughout the business. And we start doing that by assessing our data knowledge gaps and trust gaps. We focus on learning and developing skill set to fill those gaps. And when we're talking about skill set, we're not just talking about the technical side of it. We are also talking about the soft skills, where people are able to communicate using data, people are able to tell story with data. So it's the combination of the soft skill and the technical skill that we both need to be assessed and need to be developed. We build an engaged and transparent process as well. So we go away from the black box model and start embracing a more clear and transparent approach. We focus on better data governance processes and put them in practice. We develop and invest in the domain data expert. I mean, it is sometimes easier to get very technical skilled people, but it's key to success is to actually empower your domain expert by providing the data skills that they need and the soft skill they need in order to communicate with that data. Because they are the one who understands the data usage better than anybody else, and also they will be able to, they're their best place to apply it wisely across the business. Lastly, we start looking at how to run innovative or idea shed and encourage data exploration. And running idea sheds, that drives new ideas using data, and it also enables data exploration for the benefit of the business. And when we look at all of those key skills and all of those key things that we need in order to build trust, this is where data literacy plays a key role. I believe that data literacy holds the key to success when it comes to building the trust in data and the data-driven culture. Now, what is data literacy? Now, data literacy is the ability to read data and the associated context, and also work with that data to analyze and to be able to ask and answer questions with that data, and to be able to tell a story with the data and have discussion with that data. The experience study also found that 7 in 10 says the lack of data literacy is negatively impacting the value of their investment within the organization that they've made in data and different technologies. They've also found that 8 in 10 sees the data literacy as the core competency that is necessary for their employee base for over the next 5 years. So that highlights the importance of data literacy, and also how it can help us going forward. So start improving the data literacy. What do we gain? Improving the data literacy among the workforce can help us build a bridge towards building the trust in our data analytics. And it does that by empowering individuals who are a bit more data literate. They feel more empowered, and they feel more comfortable working with data because then data knowledge increases. They also more aware about data lineages, so they start asking questions around how many data sources are we using, where are the data coming from, what are the transformation the data is going through, what happens to the data, and how we apply different business logic to that data. And essentially all of those lead to better analysis, better understanding of the business, and also the wider data that's available to them. And it also increases their ability to ask the correct question and ability to tell a story with that data. So it's not just the technical side, it's not just the ability to ask questions, it's also ability to go back out there and explain to people, explain to other user base, and also tell a story with that data. And what we get at the end of all of this is a more engaged and informed workforce. And that can only be positive for any business, really. So that moves me to the next point, brings us to the kids in data side of it. So how kids in data is using data literacy to build trust. Now, to start with, firstly, I just wanted to show you what is Kids in Data. Now, Kids in Data is a free data literacy workshop platform. It's primarily designed for early days of education. So that could be primary school, early high school, but it's not limited to schools only. Anybody can participate and use it and learn and expand their knowledge base. Our aim is to help children learn about data and visualization through games. And we want to make data fun for the children. And we want the children to feel confident working with data and teach them about how to tell a story with that data. So what's our approach in terms of building trust, in terms of getting children prepared for the world ahead? So how we do this is when you register for the Kids in Data workshop, we encourage children or participants to play games. Essentially, by playing games, what they're doing is they're creating their own data, and using that data, we're empowering their learning journey. So straight away, they get familiarity with the data. They can also validate what they're seeing on their screen during the learning process. So the trust gets built over time as they see how they're scoring over time as they go through the journey. And we use the same data to encourage them to communicate and also tell a story. So we're introducing the soft skill element to that learning process. And what happens at the end of it is the children gets the full view of the data journey. They get to see from the data creation to data gathering to data analysis to storytelling. It gives them the full 360 view of that data journey. So just to quickly demonstrate in terms of how we build the trust element of it and how do we go on achieving that. So one of the elements that we've been using is when they play the game and they start launching their learning modules, we don't just use a set of demo data that's available. We actually use the live data from their game sessions that they've just been playing. So in this particular example, this is a module that's teaching the children about bar chart and variety of different elements of bar chart. But what they will see straight away is their score from the games that they've just played. So straight away they can validate that, yes, I've played my first game, I've only scored 1,350, and my last game, this is what I've scored. So straight away that helps them to build the trust in that data. They know that this is what they've done and this is what is showing the right scores and is reflecting on what they have done and what they've achieved. As they go through that journey, this will be enforced more and more. What we try to do is also give them ability to take that a little bit more further. So we provide them with a Qlik Sense dashboard for anybody who wants to use it. And within the Sense dashboard, which can be refreshed and shown them the live score of not only just their data, also what's happening to the rest of the people that's participating in the workshop. So they get to see their league table and how that's changing over time. And also they get to see some correlation. What's happening when somebody's scoring really high? Are they playing a lot more game than I am? So they get to see all of that, and that allows them to build a sort of story over time that they can actually communicate and tell everybody using that dashboard. So this is how we are approaching in terms of teaching children about data that data and giving them that full journey and making it as transparent as possible, and also allowing them to tell a story with it. So over time, we've obviously, through the Kids in Data and also working with other organizations, I have picked up a number of lessons around implementing data literacy in your workshop, in your workforce, and also some of the elements that may work and some of the elements that don't. So I thought I would share the do's and don'ts of data literacy approach. To start with, I would suggest that as an organization, assess your employee competency level, frequently check their data competency, and for those, especially for those who are on the data literacy journey. Secondly, invest in training and skill development. So that could be via advising to or providing them to books to read, or by classroom training. And that skill set, like I touched on earlier, and it doesn't have to be just technical skill set. It should be the combination of the technical skill set and the soft skill. Encourage innovation. So innovative thoughts and creative ideas always lead to a new way of doing things. Explore and ask questions of data. So that could be, how many data sources do we use? What are they? How do we transform the data? And all of that helps them to paint a clear picture of the data and build a trust in there. And also create a knowledge sharing culture. Essentially, don't make your employees feel like that they have to take that journey on their own. Help them across, pair them up with people who already been onto that journey and probably at a different stage than they are, so they can work together and share their knowledge and finding together and get there. Some of the things to avoid is like I touched on before, is the black box method. So when you build everything under a black box and hidden away from the users and hidden away from the business users who are essentially using your analytics day in, day out, they over time can lose trust in that data because they don't know what's happening to all the different business logics that's been applied. They don't really know where the data source is sitting or where the data is coming from and what changes been applied and how those changes been applied and when there's been changes been made. So try to get away from those black box model. I also always advise our clients and anybody that I work with, don't be afraid to try new approaches, and certainly don't be afraid to fail, because the failure is one way to learn and one way to improve as an organization. Do not make any assumptions of your data. That's a key one to take away from us as well. Always try to use the fact using the data rather than make an assumption of your data. And do not put any barriers in the way, and allow curious mind to ask questions and innovation to find new ways to improve your existing processes. Remove any barriers that you have in place by allowing everybody to gain access to that data. So some of the key takeaways for us from this session would be to identify the trust gaps. That would be the first one for me. Because without knowing where the gaps are, it would be very hard to fill that gap. So identifying where the gaps lies, that is at the top of the list. And then start looking at your data competencies, see where you are within your data literacy journey as an organization. Try to have a process in place where you can assess them periodically and also provide the right level of support and training when required. Build a clear data strategy. Without data strategy, the success of this will be limited. And also build a robust data governance in place. Move away from the black box model. Instead, clear path and transparency in place, and also take your user through that journey. And also they understand how all of those governance works for them and help them to provide a better data prepared environment. So thank you very much. That brings us to the end of my session.
Thank you so much, Kabir, for the wonderful insight into the importance of data literacy, how to implement it, and how to trust it through quality data management. And now let's go ahead and pass the floor to Edwin.
All right, thank you so much. Can you hear me and see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah. Hey, thank you, Kabir, and I really like your do's and don'ts and lessons learned, that not only with kids and data, but also with organizations. And whenever we talk with people, we see that there's a whole world behind data literacy or a Qlik story or whatever story you tell. Right, there's a whole world behind it, and it could be that you have a whole architecture of data flows where you combine data, where you extract, you transform, you load, and maybe you guys use QVD files to get to that endpoint where you bring everything together in basically a dashboard and a story that you want to tell to your organization, and how they can read that and associate that and work with that. So there's a whole world behind that, and as BI specialists, we know that. But one of the most important things of getting trust is also make sure that you have control over that world behind that dashboard and what's going on there. And Modio purpose in life is really help organizations with that part of data literacy, the world behind it. And probably a lot of our people in the audience already know that sometimes you run into inefficiencies in the development process, or cumbersome deployments, or you don't have a safety net where mistakes are being made, and that can bring down the trust that people have in information, and especially when it impacts them. It could also be that you face external demands, like auditing demands, and especially when you report over financial information, or you want to capture the knowledge. Why do we do this? How did this come along? How do we develop that? What is the knowledge that we had, and why did we change certain things? So knowing what and when and why things happened, and who made these changes and who delivered it, is essential to get trust in data literacy. And what Modio has done is developed a product for zero-touch version control that creates efficiency and basically capture everything automatically in a seamless way on the lowest level possible, so that you know what's going on in your Qlik Sense environment, but also that you have analytics over your Qlik Sense, over the world that is not visible at the surface. Okay, so I want to give you a little bit of taste. So let me show you a short video of what that looks like, so you can get an idea here. All right. So basically, if I would go into Qlik Sense, what most developers or power users are doing, and I want to make changes to a certain application, I will go in, bring it to my own workspace, and what we're going to show you here are the three typical changes that people make. And the first one is that we're going to delete something. For example, this sheet turns out not to be necessary anymore. We delete it and get it out of the application. Other things that people are doing is, of course, adding things. That's the second classic change that we make. So in this case, I will make a bookmark and save that bookmark here for people to be used. And then you can see here that the bookmark is there. And then the third change that we do is not really adding or deleting something, is really making a change to something in the Qlik application. And in this case, we will make a change to the load process. In this case, there's a duplicate code, no functional changes really, but we will just delete that and see what happens there. Well, we want to make sure that Qlik works correctly, so we load the data and everything is working fine. And from that perspective, what we will do then, if I finished all the changes, I will publish it again, so it is accessible for everybody in the organization. Okay, so basically I did nothing different than I would normally do as a power user or a super user or as a Qlik developer. And you can see here, the sheet is deleted, the bookmark is there, and it's accessible for everybody. So I have this process in place, but if I make mistakes, if I want to know what happened, if somebody comes to me sometime later says, hey, you deleted that sheet, Edwin, but I use it every quarter and I see it's gone and I need it, right? So what kind of safety net do you have? How can you answer questions, what happened in your Qlik environment? And we capture everything automatically. As you can see here, the 3 changes that we made are there. The adding the bookmark, the changing in the load process of the application, and deleting that sheet. And in the example that I gave, when I want to get that sheet back, that should be very easy, right? I should know, okay, what happened here? Why did we do this? And okay, we made a mistake. We want to get that back. Well, how would you do that if time has passed and a lot of changes have been made? So in this case, we have the individual part of an application that is stored individually through the background. I can just click roll back, and what I can do is get it back. I can do other things as well. I could make a diff with a prior version, or I could see what is in production, what is in my dev environment. Is that the same? So there are a lot of things that you can do from the screen, but in this case, we're just going to restore it. We get a track record of that. Who did that? I logged in as an administrator here, so I can see there's a new version 9. We had version 7, so that has been restored. I have a full change history, what will bring trust to the organization, because we know what happened, we know when it happened, we know why it happened. And if I would go back to the Qlik environment and I would open up this application, and I would look at it, you can see that the sheet is back and with all its data. So it's a very easy way, basically, to have control over the environment, what has happened, a safety net, but also why things are happening. If mistakes happen, you can solve it immediately, what is very important to gain trust in the organization. All right, so this is a taste that we want to give what is possible, but let me go back to my slide deck here for a second. And if you look at trust and you look at the world behind a story or a dashboard, I think there are 4 major components that make that. And you want to have the right technology in place, and we just show you that. With Qlik and additional technology, you can have these controls in place. You want to have your processes in place that supports, it's supported by technology, but in the end, it's all about people. It's about empowering people, and Kabir, you already said that. It's about empowering people to have the trust that they can make changes, and there is always a safety net, and they have the courage to be innovative, and that's what I liked about your presentation. And that are the same words of Chirag at RAS Risk Administration Services. They said, well, having version control in place, having these processes and technology in place had an impact on the people. They know now that they can innovate without being afraid that something would break. Okay, and I think that's what we do as well with Motio, because I've been in business intelligence for a very long time. And you can have the greatest technology in place, but in the end, it are the people that make or break an implementation, or the people that make and create success. And what we have, and Kabir, we were very happy that you joined that. We spent time on the Qlik Luminaries to understand what they are doing and how they work. Well, let me get back to kids in data. And this is my daughter. She graduated from high school. She's taking a gap year now. She wanted to travel, but unfortunately, because of the whole COVID situation, that's not possible. So she's now at home. And of course, as a father, you discuss, well, what are you going to do after high school? What are your plans to go to college, university? What do you want? And she said, Dad, I want to be in data science. I want to be a data scientist. I love math. I love data. I want to work with that. And I was so proud as a father. You know, my daughter, you know, following my footsteps as a BI intelligence specialist, as a BI project manager. And I said, that's so nice because Daddy is in data science. And her reply was, really? Are you? I thought you were in sales. I'm like, Well, so far my influence on my kids with the Kids and Data, but I really, Kabir, appreciate what you were doing with Kids and Data, because I think it's essential that there's so much data now around, and when I read stories about that, kids create data, kids consume data. There are so many aspects of data. What's also ethics around data. So learning and teaching children the right way around data is, I think, essential for our future.